Good evening. We'll call our meeting to order tonight. Renata, if you could do the roll call, please.
Miller.
Here.
English.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Ettinger.
Here.
McEvers.
Yes.
Gookin.
Yo.
If we would all rise for our invocation, we have Pastor Paul Vanoy with candlelight with us tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members. It's been a great year this past year. Looking forward to another months of good things ahead this 2018. Let's pray together. Lord, thank you so much for the blessing, the privilege that we have of serving you and serving this community. I thank you for our mayor and our council members and their tireless hours that they put into thinking about the issues of our day and the things that are necessary for the maintenance of our community. Lord, bless them, give them health and strength. Tonight, as we recognize the swearing in again for those that come to serve even still, Lord, we ask that your blessing would be especially upon them as you lead them and guide them. Today, Lord, we also pray for Jonah Leader and for Tim Leader, our sergeant with the Sheriff's Department, and his family, and their loss of a son, and then the life of Jonah presently in great distress. We ask your blessing upon that family, upon Jonah today. Bring your comfort and strength to them. Use us, Lord, all of us, as we move forward into the months of this new year. We are privileged, Lord, to live in this beautiful, beautiful community. We're happy to serve here. Thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Would you lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Don't believe we have any amendments to the agenda, so we will just move to the consent calendar.
Okay, cool.
Would
Mr.
like
Mayor,
to-
I'd like to move for approval of the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Any further discussion? Roll call, please, Renata.
Ettinger.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Yes.
McEvers.
Yes.
Gookin.
Yep.
English.
Yes.
Motion carried. We will move on to public comments. If anyone would wish to address the council, would have 3 minutes to do so on any city business. Anyone wishing to make public comment tonight? Okay. Don't see any, so we will move on to announcements. Any member of the council have an announcement tonight?
I just wanted to encourage the rest of council and anyone watching to tune in to the city website for any updates on the Atlas Waterfront project. Stuff is posted there regularly, and as things move forward, it's a great place to stay fully informed.
Thank you. Anyone else? Woody?
So last council meeting, I missed it, and you guys voted to support the skate park, and it really meant a lot to me, and I was sorry I wasn't here, and you did use my favorite word.
Yeah, that's
So we're
right.
going to have a bitchin' skate park. So getting all moved about the skate park coming, I did a little research, and I'm just going to give you a little history that just goes back to like 1979. Little story about the skate park, and the two guys on the ends are involved here as it comes later in time. 1979 Parks and Recreation Commission recommends prohibiting skateboarding in the city park due to liability exposure. Back in those days, we didn't have all the rules we have now to protect if you are messing around with sports and you get hurt. July of '87, almost 10 years later, ordinance number 2052, no skateboarding on downtown sidewalks came swinging through. 1988, the Parks and Recreation Commission again recommended ban skateboarding in the city park due to vandalism. Those were ugly times for skateboarding. Everybody was a vandal. Spoke against the ban Glenn McGruder, Kevin Bennett, Carrie Stadish, and Beverly Kavanaugh. And if you guys remember, Kavanaugh had a skate shop here on Sherman, and she was a very out front gal, really always holding up the kids and trying to make it better. Out of that, they came up with a suggestion to create an ad hoc committee on the Parks and Rec Department to kind of help the skaters get some face time and some planning. 1991, we jump way out. Council sets aside a location east of Memorial Park contingent on funding until spring of '93. In '92, another year later, Doug Eastwood recommends temporary slab next to Memorial Field. That's kind of like where the railroad was. See, he's starting to nod. It's coming back to the old guy on the end there.
Congratulations.
In
Well, I thought he meant the other
1994,
old guy.
Edinger seconded the motion, Ron made a motion in English, you seconded the motion for access from Garden Avenue to get to the skate park, which is where it is now. That was 1994, long time ago. Ron, you remember that, right? Yeah, just yesterday. 95, English reports on funds for the skateboard. Dan's making headway trying to find the money to build a skate park. Way to go, Dan, I didn't know that. So cool, isn't it? Right here. I'm almost done. 1995, a few months after Dan, they dedicate $15,000 to the dedication for the skate park to build, the council. 1996, Mayor Hassel dedicates the Coeur d'Alene Skate Park, the one we just tore down. And in 2009, BMX, bicycle guys, and the skaters unite as one park under Ordinance 3362. So it was kind of cool to see that all come together. The band got a little bigger and a little bit more support. So I want to thank all the supporters from the past and the dedication to the group of unique athletes that skaters are, and thanks to this council for supporting it, and the Urban Renewal Board for kind of seeing this project through. So that's my quick history on the skate park, and thanks for standing up for it, you guys. I think those kids are going to love it.
So Woody, can you dust off your old board and have the first skate at the dedication of that park?
Somebody else asked me that. I don't think so.
I think it would be appropriate.
I know, but mine were steel wheels, you know? We're talking early, late 50s here, you guys. But thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, Woody. Anyone else have anything? If not, we'll move on to other business, and we have other business to authorize grant awards for their CDBG grants, and we have Michelle Cushing is going to give us a report. Welcome, Michelle.
Hello.
You're good.
Okay.
I'm bad. Don't listen to me.
So my name's Michelle Cushing, as you know, but for those of you who are tuning in, I work with Renata McLeod on the CDBG grant, the Community Development Block Grant. Just a brief history of the Community Opportunity Grant through this CDBG program. Just about every year, every year to date, that is, about 40 to 50% of the yearly allocation for the grant is given out to the community through a competitive basis, searching for interested applications that can do housing or rehabilitation or public service projects. So there were 5 applicants for this year's 2017 Community Opportunity Grant that met HUD standards and went to our ad hoc committee for review. And this was a 30-day open public application period that we followed. There were 2 technical assistance meetings, so interested parties who maybe if this was their first time applying, we could help them through their applications, make sure they were on target, things like that. So there were 4 recommendations from the ad hoc committee. There were 2 community opportunity grants for rehabilitation of public facility buildings that would assist low to moderate income residents and affected persons at those facilities. So the first public service grant that was recommended by the ad hoc committee was for safe passage for a new roof and needed electrical code upgrades to an emergency women's shelter, asking $25,028. And there was another public service ask from Children's, oh, excuse me. I think I'm forgetting which one I'm on. So there were 2 rehabilitation projects. The Safe Passage was a rehabilitation project application. The second rehabilitation project application was for Trinity Group Homes for new flooring on a recently acquired 16-unit group home for transitional living. And then there were 2 public service type applications, which basically run public programs to help people. The ad hoc committee supported funding the Commonwealth Agency to support seniors in the amount of $17,856.20. And then to Children's Village, this was the other public service facility, public service ask, and that was for $24,252.80, supporting transition, I think I'm gonna mess this up, I'm sure, but basically a trauma-based intervention counseling for youth at that shelter and trying to expand their services, so.
Okay,
Any questions on those
questions
grants?
for Michelle? Dan?
Well, I would just comment, I was very pleased to see the, the range of applications and the awards and the kinds of projects, I know that we've done some big projects the last few years since I've been around, and they were good and all of that, but I really like to see that it, kind of trickles down to multiple, nonprofits and, having been in that world, it's not very sexy to go out and try to raise money for, you got to patch the roof or put on new flooring, and so that those capital funds can be kind of hard to come by, and I do think this is exactly what the community development block grants are for, so I'm encouraged by the process, so.
Well, thank you very much, appreciate that.
Other questions for Michelle? I guess, Michelle, I had a question on the 3 of the names are fairly common that people have seen there throughout the community: Children's Village, Safe Passage, and Trinity Group Homes. Commonwealth Agency is a new one to me and maybe a new one to the other council members too. Maybe explain a little bit, if you can, about that agency.
Sure. My experience with the agency isn't very vast, although I do know that they've been around for maybe a year or 2 at least, and they have like a sound financial plan. So the ad hoc committee didn't see anything of to indicate, that they weren't a sound option as far as funding, based on their newness. I know that they have a lot of people on their board in real estate and in different public service backgrounds.
Do you have any other, more detail on the activities that or the services they're going to provide?
Sure, yeah, and this is one of the things that the ad hoc committee had to kind of narrow down. They were asking quite a lot in quite a range of things in their initial application. And working with HUD to kind of go through some of those line items, we were encouraged not to fund in everything that they were asking for, but just a portion of it to administer it. But what we did decide to fund included education training, like slip and fall training for seniors. There was some driving assistance. They want to run something like a food pantry out of a structure. And so they needed like a freezer to kind of, we're not going to support the food in that freezer because they're hoping that the residents around the area will do that. But we'll support the purchase of the freezer, and then also a part-time person, so wages for a part-time person to run the program.
Thank you. Any other questions for Michelle Kiki?
Michelle, how long is this grant cycle, and when will the date for the new opportunities for other nonprofits to apply begin?
Sure. This year, we posted on October 13th, 2017, for the 30-day public cycle this year. And part of that, I believe, was due to the delayed funding that we received from HUD this year. Our 2017 allocation didn't come to us until mid-November. So part of that open period for grants applications, I believe, is somewhat subject to when we get our allocation, so that can change yearly.
But it's approximately October of next year.
You know,
Or-
I think we usually do it later in the year, generally. Is that what I understand?
Our plan year starts in April. So once we do our action plan and we set up our budget for the year and we determine how much we're setting aside for the grant program that year, we can start our planning. So it's our hope we could go a little earlier, but this year, the federal government was so delayed in releasing funds, we just didn't feel confident until we knew for sure we were on the right track with the feds. So hopefully next year we'll do it a little bit earlier, but for sure no later than October.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? No other questions, we'd be looking for council action.
Well, I would make a motion to authorize grant awards with Trinity Group Homes in the amount of $21,333, Safe Passage for the amount of $25,028, Children's Village for the amount of $24,253, Commonwealth Agency in the amount of $17,856, and I'm rounding up and down like when you do your taxes.
Second. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Move on to resolution number 18-001. It's a jurisdictional transfer agreement with the Idaho Department of Transportation for Coeur d'Alene Lake Drive inside the city limits. Tim Martin.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I'm here tonight to visit with you. Back in March of 2017 and then again in October of this year, either Chris Bosley or I had been in front of you talking about this jurisdictional transfer and enter into a signed agreement with Idaho Department of Transportation on Coeur d'Alene Lake Drive within the city limits of Coeur d'Alene. What's going on here? It's not. The section you're looking at is, this is looking westbound from the bridge back towards 23rd's intersection, and then this is the other way, looking towards Silver Beach Road. What ITD is looking at, kind of in a summary of the contract, the city of Coeur d'Alene will agree to the abandonment of the state of Idaho and accept jurisdictional responsibility of the existing multimodal transportation and the right-of-way through that corridor. It's 1.27 center miles of road. With that, ITD will provide $840,000 for ongoing maintenance of that facility, and ITD will also manage the bridge, which we refer to as Potlatch Hill Bridge, and the slide area that's adjacent to the bridge. Jeez, it's going back. The $840,000, ITD had contracted with Welch Comer to look at this stretch of road. They looked at it as what would the community want to see in the future. So they put together some numbers of stripping the asphalt, putting in a bike lane, separating the trails. We had asked them that we wanted the dollars to upgrade the signal and bring it into the current city standards. And we also wanted them to maintain ownership of the bridge and that slide area that's adjacent to it. This is the two areas that you're looking at. That's the Potlatch Bridge and then the traffic signal at the corner there. Some of the maintenance costs, it's really hard to put together how much it's going to cost me to plow it or sand it or de-ice it because winters are what they are. But, you know, the one number is the paint. You know, it'll be $1,000 annually just to stripe it. I ran some numbers. We spend about $1,300 a lane mile in asphalt maintenance, whether it's crack sealing or just overall patching of the road. So we don't anticipate our plow times to go up any. That would be part of our arterial team that's ongoing throughout the day or the storm itself. And, you know, our times are driven on how fast we can get into our residentials and start with the gate process. So I don't anticipate any of the plow times going up or the asphalt maintenance is going to be slight, but there will be some. I just can't anticipate costs on that. But the number 840 was put together as over a 30-year cycle, you're going to do an overlay on it, and the cost of the overlay is $500,000 and things like that. So with that, I would entertain any questions.
Woody?
So the 840 is a year?
No, it's a one-time
One-time.
$840,000.
Darn, it said ongoing. I thought, oh, this is good. Windfall, windfall. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. Tim, this came to us many, many years ago. Do you remember some of that history? They were talking
I
about the whole
remember
thing.
back in 2012, sir, when they were looking to give us everything out to Higgins Point. And we struggled as staff and as council to make that pencil out. It just wasn't going to work. So ITD pulled back, they looked at it and went, okay, let's look at East Side Highway District potentially taking everything outside the city limits, us keeping it inside. We've been holding on to this agreement for a couple months waiting. We've been conversing with East Side Highway District, and they've ironed all their issues out, and they're ready to move forward with ITD on this process.
So this goes to the city limits, which is where the beach house is, correct?
Just beyond the Silver Beach Road, yes.
Thank you.
We're doing some of that maintenance now, you know, not with an MOU, but a lot of our special events go out that way, and we sweep them. You know, we have to plow our way up to the hill. We're not going to lift our stuff and run. We plow out to it and back.
Dan?
So are they transferring basically the ownership of the dirt, the highway?
And the right-of-way, yes.
Right, okay, so that'll come into the city, and it's in the city now, so if there
Already
were,
in the city.
it's, pardon? It is,
Yes, it is.
okay, so if there was a traffic accident today, our police department already would have
Correct.
jurisdiction, and so, okay.
Tim, is there, so we're getting transferred the roadway. There is also strips of land alongside the roadway, say for instance, from the terraces to the Silver Beach Marina. Is that land a part of the transfer as well, or is it just the road?
My understanding it is part of the transfer also, the land.
So that waterfront area there then, that is now owned by the state of Idaho, is going to be transferred to the city of Coeur d'Alene,
The riprap and that, yes.
all the way through there. Okay. All right. Other questions? Ron?
What involvement is the East Side Highway District in with this?
Mr. Pankratz and I visited on it, but my understanding, sir, is they're ready to sign this agreement with ITD and take over transfer. ITD is going to maintain the slide at Redmond Hill and some of those things. But my understanding is they've agreed to this transfer.
So this agreement just goes to the East Coeur d'Alene city limits?
Correct.
Other questions? Dan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Tim, we're going to get this big sack of money, and I assume it's going to come in a sack. So my concern about this is, what happens to that money? You're going to be spending more money out of the maintenance fund over the years, but I would like to see what goes on with that money. In other words, to make sure all money's fungible, you put it into the pot, and it just melts into everything else. But I would like to make sure that that's not something that council's tempted to spend on something else that's non-related. I don't know what the legal implications are. I mean, we have to, if we're going to take it over, we are going to maintain it. But specifically, that money is going to be used for what? I mean, how can staff reassure council that that money is going to be used for maintenance and other related things without having it just disappear into the vast unknown?
The vast
That's a
unknown.
tough question. I'm going to have to go back to you or to administration. I mean, you set the budgets and you put the money. I would think that working with administration, that some of that money, or however you see fit, would go where it needs to go.
So I would like to find out, and I'll ask Troy this question, is there any way that we can earmark that money in the budget as a line item so that council and the public can track it?
Yes, council member, thank you. I would suggest that your motion, should you choose to move forward with this, would be to dedicate those dollars in your fund balance so that you have the authority going forward, or you can take recommendations from our streets and engineering department on some capital expenditures they may want to make on that. At $1,000 for some of the striping and some de-icer, I don't think we have to take from this fund going forward, but that would be a way to earmark it, and we can look at it when we do another financial plan.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I think we'll do that. Hope we do that.
Okay. Any other questions for Tim? If not, we would be looking for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll take a stab at this. I would move to approve Resolution 18001, which approves a jurisdictional transfer agreement with the Idaho Department of Transportation for Coeur d'Alene Lake Drive inside the city limits, and direct staff to earmark the proceeds in its own line item in the budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
McEvers?
Yes.
Gookin?
Aye.
English?
Yes?
Eddinger?
Yep.
Thank you.
Motion carried. Thank you, Tim. Now, we have a little piece of business here to perform oaths of office.
We don't reset, we don't adjourn for this, do we?
No, you don't have to on this one. Sometimes you will recess after the oath and let the new council take their seats. But since our new council is the same, I thought we probably could forego that.
And I just want everyone to know that the city did not pay for new signs. Normally we do that, but not this time.
Big savings.
So am I the first up?
All right. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Steve Widmeyer,
I, Steve Widmeyer,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the state of Idaho,
the Constitution and the laws of the state of Idaho,
and the ordinances of the city of Coeur d'Alene,
and the ordinances of the city of Coeur d'Alene,
that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
all the duties of the office of mayor
all the duties of the office of mayor
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations on your.
Thank you.
I can get your signature.
And the crowd goes wild.
It's not as crowded as last time.
I snickered at the best of my ability.
We're setting the bar high. Take that one with you. Here. And now if I can have Amy Evans.
One at a time. I don't know.
Okay, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Amy Evans,
I, Amy Evans,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Idaho,
the Constitution and laws of the State of Idaho,
and the ordinances of the City of Coeur d'Alene,
and the ordinances of the City of Coeur d'Alene,
that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
all of the duties of the office of council member
all of the duties of the office of council member
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. Your second floor. Please sign both of those. And you may take your commemorative pin with you. Here's your copy. Okay, Woody McEvers, please. I feel like I'm calling you to the doctor's office. Was it hard? All right, Woody, here for another round.
Oh, my God.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Woody McEvers,
I, Woody McEvers,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States,
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Idaho,
Constitution and laws of the State of Idaho,
and the ordinances of the City of Coeur d'Alene,
and the ordinances of the City of Coeur d'Alene.
that I will faithfully discharge
Faithfully discharge
all of the duties of the office of council member,
all the duties of
office of
council
council member,
members,
according to
Sorry.
the best of my ability,
according to the best I can do.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
And you may keep your signatory pin, and I'm going to sign one of these and send it with you, Woody.
I'm still around.
I'll switch you. Switch you. Last but not least, council seat number 6. All right. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Kiki Miller,
I, Kiki Miller,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Idaho
and the Constitution and laws of the State of Idaho
and the ordinances of the City of Coeur d'Alene,
and the ordinances of the City of Coeur d'Alene,
that I will faithfully discharge
that I will faithfully discharge
all of the duties of the office of council member
all of the duties of the office of council member
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations on your
Thanks, Renata.
secretary. All right, please sign both of those. And you get to keep your pin and have your copy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Feel kind of left out.
So I guess, Renata, you want to do another roll call? Is that what you'd like to do? All right.
All right. Miller,
Here.
English,
Here?
Evans,
Here.
Eddinger,
Here.
McEvers,
Still here.
Gookin.
Yeah.
Okay, now we will move on to the election of the council president. We're looking for a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate Woody McEvers as council president.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion
Thank you.
carried.
Thanks, you guys.
And then if we move on to announcements, I guess I'd first like to start off, 4 years ago when we started this, we had a lot of veterans here but we had 3 rookies. We had Kiki and Amy and myself, and as much as we had studied and learned, we really didn't know what we were getting into. You really don't know until you actually get into the job. And I'm really proud of the job that everyone has done over the last 4 years. I think we've moved the city forward. I think we've done some great things along the way with help of some veterans, with Woody and Ron and Dan, and then Dan English, who was kind of a veteran, that he joined us. And I think we got a good crew. And I'm really looking forward to the things that we're going to do over the next few years. We have a lot of really great projects that we have on the horizon. So I'm really looking forward to working with all of you over the next couple of years to accomplish some great things. So thank you very much for
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
all that you've done. So now we'll move on to announcements. The change that we have, just one change, is that Kiki is going to transfer from General Services to Public Works, and Dan is going to transfer over from Public Works to General Services. So that's just one, and Dan Gookin is doing that.
Yes.
Yeah. And then all of the other committee appointments are going to remain the same. We may have some changes along the way. Ron has requested that we take a look at one of the committees that he's on, the senior committee, to see if someone else would step up to take that role. So we'll work on that over the next little bit to see if someone would step up and take that role. And so that's everything that I had. Anyone else have anything for the good of the order here tonight, council members?
No, there's no refreshments, there's no punch, there's no cake, so I'm out of here.
Yeah. So we would be looking for our final motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move for, being that there's no more other business, to be adjourned.
Second.
Motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.